How do we arrive at this place? How do we get to this apogee? Preach, Steve. I'm going to give my thesis tonight. How do we arrive here that we don't even see need? We don't see hurt. We don't see people that are struggling to make it. You know, I wish, honestly, that I could just move on. I got some connections here, connections there. I rub shoulders with some of the right folks, and then move on. But it ain't in me, folks. I have a burden for the little man. That's been with me all my life. I mean, sometimes I'm all the way okay, and then I'm gonna pick up some fight for the little man. And to me, I thought that sometimes that's insanity. Sometimes that's a detraction, a personal detraction for myself. But when I think about it, that's my charge. That's my burden. That's what God put on me. I may want to run with the up and in, but that ain't my charge. God didn't give me the up and in as a personal charge. But he did give me those who've been looked over. He did give me those who've been walked on. He did give me those who have been maybe made a mistake along the way or fell off of the beaten path, or all of a sudden they're struggling right now. And folks, that's my charge. I sat down with gut-wrenching pain the other day because I was trying to figure out why when I get so close, why when I'm almost there, why when I can taste it, I can feel it, that God has ascension all among my person. And all of a sudden, I sit there and I'm fighting for the little man again. I'm fighting for the little mama that might not have no teethuses. I'm fighting for the old guy that can't quite get his words. I'm fighting for those folks that got that person in that back room, that family member that they have never quite integrated into everyday existence. Folks, as much as I want to walk off and run away and taste the fruits of the world, it's not my charge. And that thing had to come home to me on Sunday, because I believe that I believe that God put enough of his presence on me. I believe that God hit me with a little charisma, and God has sprinkled me with a little favor, and I do believe that SVP won't be the last station that you'll see me on. I believe that ascension is on my personal trajectory. However, I, as much as I want to run and win the world and taste the fruits of the world, I have this thing to always come back and fight for my folk. Folks, I had a grandmother. My grandmother's name was Eva Harvey Young. And she was built as such a loving, caring person. And that imprint got on me because I was grandmama's boy. Even though I had a wonderful mother, I was grandmama's boy. I was her first deceased grandchild. And watching her, how she treated people, how she integrated with people, how she communicated with people, how no one was a stranger, that thing fell all on top of me. And as much as I want to run and be the best that I can be and life coach and do all of this other stuff, I still feel this burden for the small man. And folks, one day we gotta face God. And we got to stand before God in judgment. And God's not going to ask about how many people were in your coaching group. Preach, Steve. I brought it home right there. And God's not going to ask you how many people are following you on Twitter. God's not going to ask how many people shared and reshared your pieces. God's not going to ask you about your brand. God's not going to ask you about any of a million sundry things that fill our daily lives. He's going to say, what did you do to the least of these? What do you do when I was hungry? Did you clothe me? Did you feed me? When I was naked, did you clothe me? When I was alone, did you house me? And folks, I determined that on the other day, that as much as I want to wire myself to be somebody else, I'm a person that feels the burden. And everybody has somewhat of a burden. My burden is for those that have been looked over. My burden is for those who've been walked on. My burden is for those that don't have a voice. And folks, sometimes when you fight for those who are so ill-advantaged, it draws attack upon you. But I'm telling you, I'm right now in this city right now. I know we got some up in the ends. We got some people, and I know a lot of you. And your kids are at Lausanne, and your kids are at Hardin Academy, and some of your kids are at Briarcrest. And folks, honestly, I salute wherever you can send your kids. I salute wherever you can afford for your kids to matriculate to. But folks, just consider this. We're in a whirlwind right now. When Ford goes, if Ford tumbles, because I heard the other day that Ford's not going to make any more passenger automobiles. And that was a decent amount of their business. The Taurus at one time was the #1 selling car in the world for many years. So Ford tumbles. If GM, 14,000 people, that means GM is going to be experiencing cutbacks. And then GM has already admitted that it has lost the battle, the race to get to the driverless cars. And folks, if that tumbles, you got to think that that's a whirlwind. There are companies that supply them. There are companies that supply the companies that supply them. And folks, all of a sudden, we can be in a whirlwind. And are you really the up and the in? If you miss 2 paychecks, I know you behind the gate. I know that your house note may cost $3,000 to $5,000 a month. But consider if you miss 2, 3 checks. Consider, if you will, if your industry all of a sudden or some national event happens and we're thrown into chaos. Folks, look, I believe that the humble will be exalted. I'm going to let all you folks that want to keep a high nose. I've lived long enough and I've been proud enough to see what a high nose can get you. And a high nose, sooner or later, it said those that will exalt themselves will be abased, wiped out. Sooner or later, you're heading for a fall. Folks, I'm speaking that to you on tonight, that none of us have arrived so much, that we are so much, that we're another tier. I know that teaching came, that you're the sum total of the 5 people that you talk with most. If you're hanging around 5 bums, then bums are coming your way. I understand that. And I try to spend my time with high value, high net worth folks. I try to be around people that can make me think different, dream bigger, think harder than I've ever thought. But folks, you can't forget where you came from. Folks, I know it would be foolhardy for me to walk on College and Macklemore right now, dressed like this, and tell them that I had a hood card there in the 90s. Preach, Steve. I got my flow. 80s, rather. Because they would have a right to not officially recognize my hood card from the 80s. I'm a tad bit removed from the hood. I'm not driving through drive-bys. I live a little further out. However, those are my folks. Folks, you can't forget where you came from. God has been too good to me. There's been so many close calls in my life that God delivered me from this close call, that close call. I was in the car that was headed to destruction. I was on my way to the party where destruction broke out. I've done any of a number of things, but the hand and the sheer grace of God. It wasn't my merit. It wasn't that Steve was so fantastic or Steve lived life at a whole nother level. I'm telling you that it was the grace of God that blessed me, that kept me. God kept me at times when I didn't want to keep myself. I think I got a good buffer at home, because every now and then when I get that good old big head, I got a good wife that God gave me, that she'll come and stick that fork and pop that balloon right on the spot. Pop it, pop it. And I might get mad at her for the moment, but I know she has my best interests at heart. Folks, look, all of us are going to go through. All of us are going to have trials. But when you succeed, go back down in the valley. Pick up your brother. Pick up your sister. Pick up somebody that you haven't done. I'm telling you, you haven't arrived.